안녕하세요, BTN 시청자 여러분. 저는 실리콘밸리에서 시작된 마음 챙김 컨퍼런스 위즈덤 2.0 코리아를 한국에서 개최하고 있고 국내 최초 마음 챙김 명상의 마보를 만든 유정은이라고 합니다. 제가 오늘 여러분들께 이렇게 인사를 드리게 된 것은요, 저의 가장 존경하는 두 선생님, 잭콘필드님과 트루디굿맨님의 첫 한국인을 위한 온라인 강연을 지금 이렇게 여러분들과 함께 하려고 하기 때문인데요. 두 분의 지혜의 말씀이 여러분들의 마음에 있는 지혜를 깨우는 시간이길 바라봅니다. 그럼 두 분 선생님을 이제 모셔볼까요? Now I'd like to request if you could guide a short meditation. It would be our pleasure to be able to practice with you.
How many of you have experienced either stress or anxiety or difficulty sleeping or worry in this time of the pandemic and economic dislocation? Raise your hand if you're somebody who's had some difficulty. There's a few hands that have gone up. Let me see. Yeah, half the hands anyway. I'll put up my hands. All right, so please let yourself close your eyes gently and take 2 or 3 deeper breaths to release whatever tension you can. And let yourself now feel your connection with the earth, the steadiness of your body on the seat and on the floor. And imagine that you are like a great tree and you have a strong trunk and roots that go down into the earth, for your body is made of this earth. Feel the roots going down into the earth so there is a sense of strength and steadiness. And now with this quality of steady presence, begin to pay attention to your body. Notice the whole field of sensations that make up your body. The tingling, the warmth, the cool, the tightness, the stress that your body carries, the pleasure, all of it, the whole energy of feeling this human body with loving mindfulness. And notice how naturally the body breathes itself, like the great tree with the winds coming and the sunlight on the leaves, that even though you're steady, the breath breathes itself in the midst of it all. And for all that your body is carrying, your work and your care, the tension and struggles and capacities, as if you could bow to your body with gratitude. Say thank you for carrying so much. Thank you for carrying so much and taking care of me. I'm okay just now. You can relax. And notice how your body responds when you say, I'm okay for now, you can relax. And now bring the same mindful, loving awareness to your heart and mind. And notice all the emotions and thoughts you've carried, feelings of longing and love, of loneliness and worry, thoughts and plans, and hold them all with great kindness and compassion. And notice then when you say, thank you for caring so much, say to your mind and heart, thank you for caring so much. I'm okay just now. You can relax. Thank you for trying to protect me. I'm okay just now. You can relax. And last, notice that you've become the awareness itself, that you are not the body or the feelings or thoughts, that who you are is the mindful, loving awareness, the witnessing, the consciousness that witnesses this body and mind, that's spacious and open and loving with it all. Now, what's happened here in North America especially, because we have had not just the current crisis, but we've had decades of building stress and anxiety and difficulty. While things have been very well developed outwardly, there has been an increase in loneliness, an increase in suicide, just as you know in Korea, an increase in isolation and unhappiness, an increase in depression, so that the outer developments of the world, which are so marvelous, where in a smartphone we have access to all the great libraries of the world, that outer development has not been matched by the inner development of the heart of human beings. And what started to happen here in the US, when some of us were fortunate to go to places like Burma or Korea or India and places of Buddhist wisdom, and come back or study with teachers like Seungsan Sansanim, as people began to realize, just as there is outer technology, there is an inner technology or capacity to change the heart and mind and develop these beautiful capacities of compassion and presence and steadiness and so forth. And neuroscientists became interested in the field that grew of positive psychology and contemplative psychology. And now there have been 8,000 different research projects and studies that have been published and done in these last few decades, showing that the inner trainings of mindfulness, of loving kindness and compassion, the steadiness of concentration and the wisdom that comes, have all kinds of benefits for the body, heart, and mind. They bring better emotional regulation. They bring a reduction of stress. They bring faster physical healing. They've shown at Harvard and UCLA and Johns Hopkins greater accuracy of perception and clarity, greater degrees of empathy. And so what has happened is that there's been this spreading movement across the US and across the world to recognize that these rich ancient treasures are really important for our time. And some of you already know this. Many of you have already become meditators in your own way and in your own tradition and so forth. What's happened as these have spread is, and then there have been books and centers and tens, literally millions of people practicing, is that there is a growing sensibility that we need to incorporate these into our own personal lives and into education and into business and so forth. Now, what's happened for me as a teacher, not only have I trained teachers and led many retreats, but I've gotten calls from the CEOs of companies in Silicon Valley, like Salesforce or LinkedIn, that have millions of people that follow them, or from Bill Ford, the CEO of Ford Motors, saying, we too need this meditation. We need it for ourselves when we're going through difficult times. Do you have anything that helps steady the heart? The economy is up and down. The the troubles in the world are great. How can we practice? And then they started to bring these into their own companies. And I think about this because this evening or this morning's talk is really a precursor to Wisdom 2.0, to a conference that's bringing together the world of wisdom and inner contemplative science and the outer world of business and education and so forth. So these leaders said, we need help. You know, we make billions of dollars, we create amazing things, we need help. And the very help that they needed is what we did in that short 5-minute meditation. They needed ways first to ground and steady themselves, as we all do. They needed to know that you can take a pause, that in the midst of running around the world in all these ways, I'm being so busy and having so much pressure that one of the most important things you can do is stop. And that in that pause, you're able then to take a deeper breath, to ground yourself, and to feel as you do, if you bring into that pause a mindful, loving awareness, to actually feel and reconnect with the earth around you, with your own body, with the thoughts and emotions, and to do so that wisdom and compassion grow. Just as you could sense in our meditation, not only did we pay attention to our body, to our heart, to our mind, but we became the loving witness of it. We became the awareness itself that allowed us to feel and sense what was happening with greater peacefulness and equanimity and balance, that allowed us to approach that which was difficult with a tender heart, with some compassion for all that we struggle with. And so these leaders in corporations and all the people that follow them, some of these people like Salesforce, which built the largest building in San Francisco, it's this huge tower, has a meditation room on every floor now, because they understand that this kind of inner training is exactly what is needed for us to live wisely, to work well together. Now, what's also true, is that in this time of pandemic, climate change, and so forth, that we not only need to steady our own hearts, but in some way we need to be helpful to the people around us. Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh from Vietnam, great Vietnamese Zen Master, said that when the crowded Vietnamese refugee boats met with storms or pirates, if everyone panicked, all would be lost. But if even one person on the boat remained steady and calm, it was enough. It showed the way for everyone to survive. So how do we become steady and calm? The very good news is that we can train ourselves to do this. I was part of the first White House Buddhist leadership gathering several years ago under President Barack Obama. And I gave this talk that was the summary of it and talked about wise society, which is there in ancient traditions from the Buddhist tradition or the Confucian tradition. All these great traditions talk about treating each other with respect and dignity and caring for the environment and caring for those who are vulnerable, the young and the elderly, and so forth. I said, but here's the great magic, that not only are these beautiful visions and ideals, but there are ways to train the heart to become more compassionate for ourselves, doing mindful self-compassion, kinder and more attentive to those who we love around, to be able to be more present for the work that we do and the things that we care about. Now, what I think about for Korea is that you've had such a remarkable period of development in the last 50 or 70 years since World War II and then since the Korean the war between the North and South Korea. And you started as a country that was described as economically quite poor during that time. And now, very quickly, you became a powerhouse in the world, in technology and education in all these different ways, probably faster than any other culture in the world to develop in this way. It's really beautiful. But to do so, you had to run and work and be ambitious and somehow make it happen. And that's part of the power and the beauty of the Korean people and their culture. Guess what? You're there. You've done it. You've reached a level of technological development and of the development of the outer society in a really beautiful and powerful way. But it won't continue to make you happy, that alone. Now, even though the Korea led the world in development and led the world in, K-pop now and in soap operas and films and movies and creativity and, and in business of all kinds and technology. Now it's time for Korea to lead the world, to take the treasures that you have and show what is it like to make a society that's also wise in the heart, so that your children are not under the pressure that you parents might have been to try to not be poor anymore, but instead your children are invited into an inner richness of heart, where it's not the outer ambition, but rather how deeply can they be attentive to what matters? How much can they learn social and emotional skills of caring for themselves and one another in the environment? How much deep wisdom can they carry so that they love in their lives with one another and that they love the community that's part of them? And what we've learned in taking these beautiful teachings from Asia, from Korea and India and Thailand and Burma and so many places, is that for us in the West, what's necessary next is really attending to ourself with compassion. And there's a beautiful tradition that's grown in mindfulness of mindful self-compassion from the kind of teachings that Trudy and I have been doing for 40 or 50 years, in which we recognize how hard it is to be human, and that the first truth of the Buddha, that there's suffering in life, is true, that we need to recognize this for everyone, but that it's not the end of the story. We can see that everyone carries a burden of suffering, but we can also see that that's the first truth. The second is its causes, greed and hatred and ignorance and fear. And we see how much suffering those cause in us, in our children, and our families. But then the end of the story is that there is a release from that. When we cultivate generosity and love, mindful presence and wisdom, instead of fear, grasping, hatred, ignorance, those can be supplanted in the human heart. And through our meditation and through our inner training, we actually become wise. We become present, caring. And you can think about it for a moment. Think about the people that you know who are the wisest and most loving that you've ever met. And it could be your grandmother, or it could be some great master, or it might be the noodle seller who loves everybody that comes and makes them all smile. It doesn't matter what station they are. And then you look and you see, oh, this is possible for us as human beings, to live with love and tenderness, to live with wisdom and balance, even though things can go up and down and be difficult. And that meditation and the art that we're talking about, which is part of the treasure of your culture, compassion, it's not a weakness. It's really a human gift and a quality of a courageous heart to be present for life and open to it. And we can learn this in the most beautiful way. So what I've been teaching, and I'll finish up with this just now, what I have been teaching, and I've had calls from the political campaigns and huge foundations and CEOs and all these, please help us in this pandemic. We're all upset. Many of us are anxious. Many of us have lost our jobs or are worried. All of these kind of things is to say we human beings have gone through difficulty before. We know how to do this. We've been training for this, those of us who practice meditation and who care about this. We have 1,000 generations before, very strong, who are supporting us, behind us, our ancestors. And now it's our time not to turn away, but to bring our loving heart, our courage, our balance, steadiness by sitting in meditation every day, by steadying ourselves, by finding a tenderness and compassion for all that we are going through and others. We become that one person on the boat that makes a difference for everyone else to survive. So I see Korea as able to lead the world. And just as you've done remarkable things, it's now time for the inner development to match all that you've done. And it's an honor and a pleasure to be a part of the beginning of Wisdom 2.0 and the bringing of the modern tech world and business and so forth together with the inner world of awakening. And I thank you so much. And I pass it over to my beloved Trudy.
I want to thank you for inviting us to do this, and I want to thank everybody who came together to make this happen. And now that we're here, I'm really happy to be here with you. And as Jack was saying, we have both been working very hard in a variety of settings to support people, first during the time of the pandemic, and now in our country, a time of a lot of political unrest, polarization, and so many intense news events coming so closely together that it becomes difficult for us too, to absorb and be present with them in the spirit of learning how to relax and how to, it's going to be steady there, how to relax and how to return to a sense of our own being. And we are doing something, I think, in all of our cultures, but particularly I know it's true in the United States and in Korea, which is to really focus on the energy of becoming better, becoming more learned, and I think the children are always in this process of feeling that they're being raised in a culture of comparison and competitiveness, and not so much learning how, I certainly didn't learn it in school, how to return home to my own being and how to rest in that presence of my being in a way that is nourishing and connected to my values, the values of my heart, and supports the loving awareness that we teach. So I'm going to say a few more words about this, and then I would like to do a practice with all of us together, which is really bringing love into our physical being, into the body. But this, I think we're seeing the results of children being kept in this culture of competitiveness and comparison that our schools foster. Our schools do it too. I'm not just talking about Korea. This is just, I think, universal, at least in the Western world. And, and especially, I think, with technology, with social media, the comparison can become even more intense. And I want to refer you to this wonderful movie, The Social Dilemma, created about the work of Tristan Harris and the Center for Humane Technology, because it really points out how kids are being affected by this culture that we are all immersed in and swimming in. And what it does is it it cultivates a psychology of aggression where we're really raising people to learn to be aggressive and competitive. But then as a country, we expect everybody to somehow be peaceful and harmonious and nonviolent and create a peaceful world. And this is, these things, they aren't leading to world peace. I think we need to look at how we are raising our kids, how our education systems work. And in the United States, we're having a real call to look also at the situation where white people have been reigning supreme in ways that are really outside of the awareness of many in our culture who are white and privileged and so forth. And I know that you have heard about the Black Lives Matter movement, and I know that this has been resonating in many hearts. And this too is a call to return to the fundamentals of our humanity together, to the essence of our own beings. And for those of us who identify as white, or those of us who identify as the gender that we're born with, we say cisgender, those of us who are heterosexual, those of us who are of a certain class, we're looking at all these ways that we categorize each other as human beings and put each other in these slots. Just look at women and men and the different degree of respect and value often that women's work and men's work has in a society. So I think this art of meditation, this art of mindfulness is such a necessary skill to show us how we can begin to come home, to rest in our own being, to relax our hearts, and to be in a different relationship, much more loving relationship with ourselves and each other. And I just want to offer the biggest bow, really, thank you bow, to my first meditation teacher, who was a Korean Zen master, Reverend Sung San. We called him Daesan Sanim. And he was a wonderful, wonderful teacher. I am so lucky that he was my first meditation teacher, because his expansive spirit and his willingness to let us be who we are while he trained us in different ways of being. This was crucial. In other words, I felt accepted for who I was, respected for who I am, while also being taught how to view the world, how to understand myself in a way that was so much bigger and so much more ultimately loving and filled with compassion. I won't go so far as to say wisdom, because that would be immodest, but that is what he was teaching us. So I also had the great honor and privilege to travel to Korea with my teacher and to visit ancient Sun temples in Korea. We went to his country's temple, Sudoksa. We went and visited all these temples. And it really gave me an appreciation, like Jack was saying, of the roots of this practice in your culture that we took into our culture, and through the science and the research and the studies, and through the work of my childhood friend and colleague, Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, was brought out of the Buddhist world into the secular world, the modern world, where now we're coming back to Korea. I was part years ago in 1995 of founding the very first center to study the interface of psychology, psychotherapy, and meditation. And these two disciplines work together, hand in hand, because one of the things that we discover is that in order to return to a sense of our own being, in order to feel at home in who we are, we have to face the facts of our psychological life, our emotions, our relationships, how we act in the world, all of this. And we need to be able to offer ourselves that acceptance and respect, because that's actually how we change. It's paradoxical and counterintuitive that by actually loving and accepting ourselves with all of our imperfections as we are right now, today, by doing that, it's actually easier for us to change and be better. This is something that, as 25 years of practicing as a psychotherapist, during the years that I lived in Boston, I now live in California, but during those years, I really saw that when people could understand compassionately why they are the way they are, maybe the roots in their childhood conditioning, maybe the particular environment they grew up in, but when they could understand, when we can understand with some kindness and compassion why we are the way we are, it makes it easier to let go of the old patterns that don't serve us anymore, that we have actually outgrown, but we don't know how to change, and we don't know what to do in order to change. And you'd think that if we hate things about ourselves, or even hate ourselves, that would be easier to let go of ourselves, but it doesn't work that way. It's really through this process of self-compassion, of self-acceptance, which, as Jack said, it is not a weakness, it's a strength, because that is what allows us to change. And as we change ourselves, and as we grow our capacity for love and understanding, for wisdom and compassion, we then are free to roll up our sleeves and get to work helping out in our world. And this helping out in our world, the world needs our love today. It feels to me more than ever. Now, maybe every generation feels this way, but we are facing challenges like climate change, like the development of technology that may be out of human control. We are facing new challenges. The world really needs us to free our hearts so that we aren't so preoccupied with our situation, and we are able to look around and see what kind of help is needed in the world. And I think the end of suffering begins. The end of suffering begins when we can return to ourselves and be willing to get acquainted with ourselves in this new and more loving and respectful way. So I just want to say a few more words about the Black Lives Matter and that movement that is happening in our culture and in our world, in America right now, because I think it's relevant for the whole world. In all the world, there are different tribes, people of different colors, races, perspectives and persuasions, and we aren't being taught to understand, get to know, and accept each other. As I said, we're being taught this culture of competition and comparison, and it makes us threatened by others and perceived as threatening by others. And when we say, when it is said that Black lives matter, it doesn't mean that white lives don't matter. It doesn't mean that Asian lives don't matter. It's trying to say all lives matter. We know all lives matter. This we know. We respect the sacredness of human life. But even though that's true, my fellow white sisters and brothers, all of us have been the beneficiaries of white privilege in 1,000 ways that we hardly realize. Big ways, little ways, hidden ways, obvious ways. And So even though we don't consider ourselves racist and we don't act that way in any conscious way, there are deeply planted seeds of bias and prejudice that we really need to take the time to look at and understand, so that we can treat each other. We can treat each other, not only treat each other better, individual to individual, but begin to address the societal problems that every society has. But ours seems like it's been more on the front page recently. And I think that because there's so much fear and anger on both sides of every strong issue, we need to, I'm going to quote, this is a scholar and author named Ibram Kendi, African-American author. And he says that education and love will not deliver us from racism. Racist ideas grow out of discriminatory policies. Racism emerges from an economic and political system that is structurally and interpersonally designed to privilege, one group of people over another. And so he is suggesting that love calls for us to create social and economic policies that are truly human, that respect the needs of the human heart. And even though these are political questions, and we may think, well, why would we look at them when we're learning about meditation and mindfulness? They determine the quality of our lives together as citizens. And so they're really important. So one of the things that we are looking at is in this difference of how differently abled, differently colored bodies can peacefully coexist. I like to start, as I said, right at home with this body. Can we respect this body that we're inhabiting right here, right now, in this moment, in this particular moment of our lives, in this particular moment of all eternity? And I'd like to invite you to do a loving kindness meditation that is focused on the body together. I've been teaching this during the pandemic because it's also strengthening for our immune systems. It's a kind of healing practice. And when I first learned it, it was from a monk from Sri Lanka. And it was during a silent meditation retreat. And when he began to give these instructions, June knows this. I mean, I just thought it was the silliest thing I had ever heard. This must be for little children or something. But as I continued to do it, as I followed his instructions and it was transformative. I felt really good afterwards. So I want to invite you to do this together with me. And all you need to do is sit comfortably, because if you're uncomfortable, that will be distracting. To sit comfortably in a position where you can really relax. And for some of you, it may be leaning back in your chair. That's fine. For some people, if you have a sore back or something, it's fine to lie down. Whatever, standing up, whatever posture allows you to feel relaxed and at ease. And I just want to say that, in terms of helping society and helping our world, activism takes many, many forms. And for some people, activism will be standing out like Jack does with his sign that says Black Lives Matter. For some people, it will be radiating from their own hearts the most love and, kindest wishes and blessings and best intentions possible. And the thing is, when you choose to connect to that which is best in you, that which is the most, the best in you, and when you radiate that love with a loving intention, then you are being an activist, actually. And the energy that we create together when we come together and do this can have a powerful impact. So I want to invite you to, as you relax into your comfortable posture, to just lower your gaze or close your eyes, whatever is most comfortable for you. And then I am going to offer you some very simple phrases. And this is when you're going to think it's silly. It's so simple. So all you need to do is to repeat the phrase silently to yourself, and then listen to what you're saying while you're saying it to yourself. And trust that while you're doing this, that you are actually able to, as you do this for yourself, to help others and to have an impact on the world through the beneficial energy that you radiate. So we begin by bringing attention to the area of the head and simply saying, "May my head be happy." Feeling the ears, the face, the scalp, the whole head, the jaw. May my whole head be relaxed and at ease. And then gently bringing attention to the neck. May my neck be happy. The front, the sides, the back of the neck. May my whole neck be relaxed and happy. And then attention to the shoulders that hold so much tension. May my shoulders relax and be happy. And now the arms, the upper arms and elbows and forearms and wrists, and the hands. May my arms and hands be happy. And just feeling the back of the hands, the palms of the hands, the fingers and thumbs, and allowing the hands to relax and be at ease. Now move the attention back up to the front of the body and feel the whole area of the chest, your collarbones, rib cage, heart and lungs. May my whole chest be happy. And then moving the attention down to the diaphragm, the belly, the lower abdomen, where all the organs of digestion and reproduction have their place. May my whole belly be relaxed and at ease. And now bring your attention to the region of the back, your upper back, middle back, lower back, where there's also lots of tension stored. And wish for the whole back. May my whole back be happy and strong. And now moving to the hips and the bottom where you sit, your buttocks. May this region of my body, my hips and buttocks, be happy. And we don't forget the whole area between the legs. May this area of our body be peaceful, relaxed, and at ease. Now bringing attention to your legs, the thighs and knees and lower legs, especially the thighs. May my thighs be free from judgment and be happy. And the knees, this complex joint of the knees, the lower legs, calf and shin. May my whole legs, both legs, be relaxed, strong, and happy. And finally, bring attention to the ankles and the feet, the tops of your feet, the soles of the foot, the heels and toes. My ankles and feet carry me everywhere I need to go. May my feet be happy and at ease. And just feeling the whole body aligned with the body and offering some love and tenderness to the body from head to toe. Just gathering the energy of this body, this being, and trusting that as we create a loving and unified field of awareness, that we are helping ourselves, the earth, all our friends and relatives, all beings, to reach a more respectful and peaceful life together. May this loving energy fill my being, fill my body, fill my heart. May I turn towards challenges with courage and compassion. May this body, which is the fruit of so many lives, and all the ancestors beam their love throughout time and space from this body to all generations to come. And opening your eyes. Thank you, 감사합니다. Thank you for your attention doing this meditation together.
감사합니다. 네, 감사합니다.